The morning sun painted the mountain peaks golden as Lisa packed the last of their supplies into her backpack. Her daughter, Maya, just 8 years old, bounced around their hotel room with excitement. This was supposed to be a simple cultural visit to a remote village in the mountains of Kravania, a small Eastern European country where Lisa worked as an American diplomat. "Mum, are we really going to see how they make cheese the old way?" Maya asked, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Yes, sweetheart. And they'll show us their traditional dances too," Lisa replied, checking her phone one last time. No signal here, in the mountains, but that was expected. The journey to Starovella, an ancient village nestled high in the Kravanian mountains, took 3 hours by jeep on winding dirt roads. Their local driver, Victor, spoke broken English, but his warm smile made up for the language barrier. Maya pressed her face to the window, watching sheep dot the hillsides like cotton balls. When they arrived, the village seemed frozen in time. Stone houses with red tile roofs lined narrow cobblestone streets. Elderly women in colorful headscarves sold fresh bread from wooden stalls. Children played with handmade toys in dusty yards. The air smelled of wood smoke and wildflowers. The village leader, a weathered man named Alexander, who had once served as a military medic, greeted them at the small town square. His English was surprisingly good, learned during his years in the army. He had kind eyes and calloused hands that spoke of a lifetime of hard work. "Welcome to our home," Alexander said, shaking Lisa's hand firmly. "We are honored to share our traditions with you." The morning passed beautifully. Maya laughed as she helped churn butter with the village women. She clapped along 2 folk songs played on ancient instruments. Lisa felt her diplomatic heart warm as she watched the genuine connection forming between her daughter and these mountain people. After lunch, they took a walking tour of the surrounding meadows. Alexander pointed out medicinal plants his grandmother had taught him about. Wild poppies swayed in the mountain breeze alongside dozens of other colorful flowers Maya had never seen. "Can I pick some flowers, Mum?" Maya asked, already reaching toward a cluster of purple blooms. "Just a few, honey. And don't touch anything Alexander hasn't said is safe." But children are curious creatures. While the adults discussed local farming techniques, Maya wandered a few feet away, toward a patch of particularly beautiful yellow flowers. She didn't know they were a type of mountain lily that produced powerful allergens. She picked 3 of the bright blooms and held them close to her face, breathing in their sweet scent. Within minutes, her eyes began to water. Then came the sneezing. Then the coughing. "Mum," Maya called, her voice already sounding strange and thick. "I don't feel good." Lisa turned around and felt her heart stop. Maya's face was swelling. Her lips were turning blue, red patches spread across her neck and arms like wildfire. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," Lisa whispered, running to her daughter. She recognized the signs immediately. Anaphylactic shock, a severe allergic reaction that could kill within minutes. Lisa fumbled for her emergency kit, pulling out Maya's EpiPen with shaking hands. She had practiced this scenario in her mind 100 times, but nothing prepared her for the reality of watching her child struggle to breathe. She administered the injection into Maya's thigh, praying it would work. For a moment, Maya seemed to improve slightly. Her breathing eased just a little. But then she got worse again. Much worse. "We need a hospital. Now," Lisa shouted to Alexander, who was already running toward them. "The nearest hospital is for hours away," he said grimly, kneeling beside Maya. "In her condition, she won't make it." Maya's breathing became more labored. Her small body convulsed as she fought for air. Lisa held her daughter, feeling helpless and terrified. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not now, not to her baby. "There has to be something we can do," Lisa pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "Please, there has to be something." Alexander studied Maya for a moment, then looked up at the mountain slopes around them. His face showed intense concentration, as if he was making a difficult decision. "There might be a way," he said, slowly. "My grandmother taught me old remedies. Military medicine too, but it's dangerous. I need to gather plants quickly." he called out, in his native language to the villagers who had gathered around them. Within seconds, people scattered in different directions up the mountainside, searching for specific plants he described. "What are you going to do?" Lisa asked desperately. "Make a paste to reduce the swelling and a tea to help her breathing," Alexander explained, his hands already working to clear Maya's airway. "Then we need to keep her calm and cool." The next hour was the longest of Lisa's life. Alexander worked with intense focus, crushing leaves and roots into various mixtures. He applied a green paste to Maya's swollen throat and managed to get small sips of herbal tea into her mouth. Slowly, impossibly, Maya began to improve. The blue color left her lips. Her breathing became less desperate. The swelling in her face started to go down. By evening, Maya was sitting up and asking for water. By night, she was weak but clearly out of danger. She fell asleep in her mother's arms while Alexander kept watch, monitoring her condition throughout the night. "How did you know what to do?" Lisa whispered to him during one of his checkups. "My daughter had allergies too," he said quietly, his voice heavy with old pain. "I lost her 3 years ago. Different situation, but I learned everything I could about plant medicines after that. Maybe so I could save someone else's child." Lisa felt tears spring to her eyes again, but this time they were tears of gratitude mixed with heartbreak for this man, who had lost his own child but still fought to save hers. "You saved her life," she said simply. "I don't know how to thank you." Alexander was quiet for a moment, looking down at Maya's peaceful sleeping face. "In our village, we have old laws, old ways. When someone saves a life, there is a debt, a connection that must be honored." Lisa nodded, though she didn't fully understand what he meant. At that moment, all that mattered was that Maya was alive and breathing safely in her arms. What she didn't know was that this moment of gratitude would soon become something much more complicated than she could ever imagine. The next morning brought sunshine streaming through the small window of the village guest house where Lisa and Maya had spent the night. Maya woke up feeling much better, though still weak from her ordeal. Her face had returned to normal, and she could breathe easily again. "Mom, I'm hungry," she said, stretching like a cat in the narrow bed they shared. Lisa smiled with relief. A hungry child was a healthy child. "Let's see what the village ladies can make for breakfast." They walked outside to find the entire village buzzing with activity. People moved about with unusual purpose, setting up chairs in the town square and hanging colorful banners between buildings. Women in traditional dress carried trays of food while men arranged tables in precise rows. "What's all this for?" Lisa asked when she spotted Alexander directing the preparations. "Village council meeting," he explained, but something in his tone made Lisa uneasy. "Very important matters to discuss today." An elderly woman named Melina approached them carrying a tray of fresh bread and goat cheese. She had been one of the villagers helping during Maya's emergency the day before. Her weathered face creased into a warm smile as she handed the food to Maya. "Strong girl," she said in broken English, patting Maya's cheek gently. "Very lucky." As they ate breakfast, more villagers stopped by to check on Maya and exchange words with Alexander in their local language. Lisa noticed they kept looking at her with expressions she couldn't quite read. Respect, certainly, but also something else. Expectation, maybe. Around midday, the church bell rang 3 times. Alexander appeared at their door wearing formal village clothes instead of his usual simple shirt and pants. "The council is ready now," he said solemnly. "They wish to speak with you." "About what?" Lisa asked, though she was beginning to suspect this wasn't just a courtesy call. "About yesterday, about what happened with your daughter." Lisa felt her diplomatic instincts kick in. Something significant was happening here, something she didn't understand yet. "Should I be concerned?" "No," Alexander said quickly. "But yes. You should understand what this means for your family." They walked to the town square, where about 50 villagers had gathered. The eldest members sat at a curved table facing rows of chairs. Everyone else sat quietly, waiting. Lisa noticed this wasn't casual community gathering. This was formal. Official. The village elder, a woman named Katerina, who looked to be in her 80s, stood slowly and spoke in their native language. Her voice carried authority that commanded immediate attention from everyone present. She welcomes you and thanks the spirits that your daughter is safe. Alexander translated quietly for Lisa. Katerina continued speaking, gesturing toward Alexander. Then toward Lisa and Maya. The crowd murmured their agreement at certain points. Lisa felt like she was watching a court proceeding she couldn't understand. "What is she saying now?" Lisa whispered. Alexander looked uncomfortable. "She is explaining about our old laws. Traditional ways that go back many centuries." "What kind of laws?" Before Alexander could answer, Katerina called his name. He stood and walked to face the council table. For the next 10 minutes, he spoke earnestly in their language, while the elders nodded and asked occasional questions. Lisa's anxiety grew with each passing minute. Maya, sensing her mother's tension, moved closer and took her hand. "Mum, why does everyone look so serious?" she whispered. "I'm not sure yet, sweetie, but everything will be okay." Finally, Alexander returned to sit beside them. His face was grave but determined. "Now, I must explain to you about Zivotny, Doug," he said carefully. "Life debt. It is very old law, but still recognized in remote villages like ours." "What does that mean?" "When someone saves another person's life, especially child's life, a sacred bond is created. The saved family becomes connected to the Savior's family. In old days, this meant the saved person would serve the Savior's household." Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. "Serve? Like slavery?" No, Alexander said quickly, raising his hands. "Not slavery. More like family duty. Marriage arrangement sometimes. Or adoption into the clan. Always with respect and care. But that's ancient history, right? Nobody follows those laws anymore." The uncomfortable silence that followed told Lisa everything she needed to know. "In cities, yes, these laws are forgotten," Alexander admitted. "But here, in mountains, old ways still matter. People still believe in sacred bonds. Local authorities still recognize traditional law for certain situations." Lisa looked around at the faces surrounding them. These weren't cruel people trying to trap her. They were simple villagers who genuinely believed in their ancestral customs. But that didn't make the situation any less terrifying. "What exactly are you saying?" she asked, though she dreaded the answer. Katerina stood again and spoke directly. To Lisa, in English this time, though her accent was thick. "Your daughter's life was saved by our Alexander. By our old law, your family now belongs to his family. You become part of his household until the debt is paid." "But I'm an American diplomat," Lisa protested. "I have responsibilities, a career. We can't just stay here." "The law does not care about modern jobs," said another elder, a man named Stefan. "Life debt is most sacred thing, cannot be ignored." Maya tugged on Lisa's sleeve. "Mum, what are they talking about? Do we have to live here now?" Lisa pulled her daughter close, her mind racing. This was absurd. It was 2024, not 1524. But looking at the sincere faces around her, she realized these people weren't joking. They truly believed in this ancient law. "There must be some way to resolve this," Lisa said. "Some modern interpretation or alternative." Alexander looked pained. "I am sorry, I did not save Maya to create problems. I just could not watch child suffer. But now the law has been spoken by the elders. It must be honored." "What does that mean for us specifically?" Katerina consulted with the other elders in whispered conversation. Finally, she turned back to Lisa. "By traditional law, you become household member to Alex. In old days, this would mean wife or concubine position. Your daughter would be raised as his own child." Lisa felt the blood drain from her face. "That's not going to happen." "We understand modern sensibilities," Stefan said gently, "but law is law. Sacred debt must be acknowledged. Perhaps we can find arrangement that honors both tradition and your modern life." What kind of arrangement? That, said Alexander quietly, is what we must figure out together. Because, according to our law and in the eyes of our people, you and Maya now belong to my family. And I am responsible for your well-being for the rest of your lives. Lisa looked at her daughter's confused face, then at the expectant faces of the villagers around them. She was a trained diplomat, skilled at navigating complex international situations. But nothing in her career had prepared her for this moment. She was legally bound by ancient law to a man she barely knew, in a village she'd never heard of until yesterday, because he had saved her daughter's life, and tomorrow she would have to explain this to the American embassy. Part 3. The diplomatic crisis. 3 days had passed since the village council meeting, and Lisa felt like she was living in a strange dream. Every morning she woke up hoping this was all some misunderstanding that would simply disappear. Instead, each day brought new complications. Maya seemed oddly unbothered by their situation. She spent her mornings helping the village women bake bread, and her afternoons learning traditional songs with the children. She had even started picking up basic words in the local language. To her, this was an extended adventure. "Mom, did you know they make their own soap here?" Maya asked excitedly over breakfast. "And Melina is teaching me to weave baskets." Lisa forced a smile. "That's wonderful, sweetheart." But inside, she was calculating how long they could stay before her absence from work became a serious problem. That afternoon, everything changed. Victor, their original driver, arrived in the village with his jeep loaded with supplies and news from the outside world. He looked troubled as he approached Lisa. "Mrs. Lisa," he said in his broken English, "there is big problem. People from your embassy called my company many times. They want to know where you are." Lisa's stomach dropped. She had missed 2 scheduled check-ins with the embassy. In her line of work, that was equivalent to sending up emergency flares. "What did your company tell them?" "They said you were safe in Mountain Village, but... Victor hesitated. "Now there are reporters asking questions too. Word is spreading about American diplomat trapped by old village law." Lisa felt dizzy. "Reporters. Local TV news came to my office yesterday. They want to interview you about ancient marriage law. This morning, international news agency called to..." Before Lisa could respond, Alexander appeared at her side, his face grim. "We have bigger problems," he said. "Government officials from the capital are coming tomorrow. They are very upset about the attention this is bringing to our country." That evening, Lisa finally got cell phone signal when Victor boosted his radio equipment. The messages that poured in made her heart race. 17 missed calls from the embassy. Dozens of text messages. Emails marked urgent. She called her supervisor, Ambassador Williams, with shaking hands. "Lisa, thank God you're alive," came the familiar voice through the static. "Where the hell are you?" "It's complicated, sir. I'm safe, Maya's safe, but we're dealing with a cultural situation." Cultural situation. "The Crevanian Foreign Ministry is demanding explanations about why one of our diplomats is apparently being held hostage by some medieval marriage law." "I'm not being held hostage, sir. It's more nuanced than that." Nuanced. Lisa, CNN is running a story tomorrow morning called "American Diplomat Trapped by Ancient Concubine Law." How is that nuanced? Lisa closed her eyes. This was her worst nightmare. "Sir, that's not accurate. The situation is, I don't care what the situation is. You need to extract yourself immediately. The Secretary of State is breathing down my neck about this embarrassment. But sir, if I just leave, it could create diplomatic problems with the local communities. These people genuinely believe I don't care what they believe. You're coming home tomorrow, and that's final. We're sending a security team to get you." The line went dead. Lisa stared at her phone, feeling trapped between 2 worlds that couldn't understand each other. The next morning brought chaos to the peaceful mountain village. 3 black SUVs roared up the winding road, followed by 2 news vans with satellite dishes. Behind them came vehicles from the Crevanian government. The quiet square suddenly filled with men in suits, reporters with cameras, and confused villagers. Watching their simple life get invaded by the outside world, Ambassador Williams stepped out of the first SUV, his face stern. Lisa recognized the other officials with him: security personnel, legal attaches, and a man she knew to be from the State Department's crisis management team. Lisa Chen, Ambassador Williams called across the square. "Time to go." But before Lisa could respond, reporters surged forward with cameras and microphones. "Ms. Chen, is it true you're being forced into marriage? How do you respond to claims about human trafficking? Will this incident affect you, Escravanian relations?" Lisa felt overwhelmed by the shouting voices and bright camera lights. Maya pressed close to her side, frightened by the sudden chaos. From the other side of the square, Escravanian officials were arguing loudly with the village elders. Lisa could see Katerina looking confused and hurt as government officials dismissed her words with impatient gestures. "This is disaster," said, appearing at Lisa's elbow. "They are making our people look like criminals. Like we kidnapped you." And that's when Lisa realized what was really happening. The media had twisted this story into something ugly. Headlines screamed about primitive village customs and diplomatic hostage situations. No one was interested in understanding the cultural complexity or the genuine kindness these people had shown her family. "Ms. Chen," a reporter thrust a microphone toward her face. "Sources say you're being held against your will under archaic laws that treat women as property. How do you respond?" Lisa looked around at the village that had welcomed her, at Alexander who had saved her daughter's life, at the elderly women who had fed them with their own hands. Then she looked at the crowd of officials and reporters treating these good people like criminals. Something inside her snapped. "That's completely wrong," she said firmly into the microphone. "These people saved my daughter's life. They've shown us nothing but kindness and hospitality. But what about reports that you're trapped here by some ancient marriage law? I'm not trapped. This is about understanding cultural traditions that go back centuries. These are good people dealing with a complex situation in the best way they know how." Ambassador Williams pushed through the crowd, toward her. "Lisa, stop talking to the press. We're leaving now." But Lisa stepped back. "Sir, with respect, running away isn't going to solve this problem. It's just going to make it worse. This isn't a negotiation. You're coming with us." Lisa looked at Maya, who was watching everything with wide, frightened eyes. She looked at Alexander, whose face showed the pain of seeing his village portrayed as backwards and dangerous. She looked at the villagers gathering at the edges of the square, confused and hurt by this invasion of their home. "No," she said quietly. "I'm staying." The square went completely silent. Cameras zoomed in on her face. Government officials exchanged shocked glances. "Lisa," Ambassador Williams said carefully, "you don't understand the implications of what you're saying." "I understand perfectly, sir. This situation requires diplomacy, not evacuation. These people deserve better than to be portrayed as villains in international news. And I think I might be the only person here who can help figure out a solution that respects everyone involved." As she spoke, Lisa realized she was making a decision that would change her life forever. She was choosing to stay and fight for understanding, rather than run away from complexity. The question was whether anyone else would be brave enough to join her. Part 4. Understanding and Compromise. The morning after. Lisa's public declaration to stay brought an unexpected quiet to the village. Most of the reporters had left, frustrated by her refusal to give them the dramatic story they wanted. The government officials had retreated to the nearby town, making phone calls and holding urgent meetings. Ambassador Williams had given Lisa 48 hours to come to her senses before he would take official action. But Lisa wasn't thinking about deadlines, she was thinking about understanding. "Alexander," she said, as they shared morning coffee in the village square, "I need to learn everything about this ancient law. Not just what it means today, but where it came from and why it matters so much to your people." He looked surprised. "Most outsiders do not care about our history. They just want quick solutions. I'm not most outsiders, and Maya deserves to Understand too, this affects her life as much as mine. Maya, who had been feeding breadcrumbs to the village chickens, looked up at her name. Over the past few days, she had grown remarkably comfortable with village life. She helped in the gardens, played with local children, and had even started calling Alexander, Uncle Alexander, in the local language. "Mom, are we really going to stay here forever?" she asked, with curiosity rather than fear. "I don't know yet, sweetheart, but we're going to figure out what's best for everyone." That afternoon, Alexander took them to visit his elderly aunt Dragana, who lived in a stone house filled with old books and family photographs. At 92 years old, she was the village's unofficial historian. The law of Zivotny Dug Dragana, explained in careful English while serving them herbal tea, comes from very hard times. Centuries ago, winter could kill entire families. If someone saved your life, they became your protector. Your family. She showed them an old leather book filled with handwritten records. See here. In 1847, a man named Marco saved a widow and her 3 children from a house fire. She became part of his household, not as servant, but as sister. Her children grew up with his children. They all survived the harsh winter together. So it wasn't about marriage? Lisa asked. Sometimes marriage, yes, if both people wanted, but mostly about creating family bonds. About survival. About making sure no one faced hardships alone. Maya studied the old photographs on Dragona's mantle. "Uncle Alexander, where are your family pictures?" Alexander's face grew sad. "I will show you," he said quietly. He led them to his own house, a modest stone building with a small garden. Inside, Lisa saw a home frozen in time. Children's drawings still hung on the refrigerator. A woman's sweater lay folded on a chair. Toys sat in a corner, waiting for small hands that would never return. "My wife, Anna, and daughter Petra died in car accident 3 years ago," he said simply. "They were coming back from the city when the mountain road got icy. I was supposed to be with them, but I stayed home sick that day." Lisa felt her heart break for this gentle man. "I'm so sorry. After they died, I wanted to die too. But village needed me. Old people needed medicine. Children needed someone to fix their broken things. So I stayed alive, but not really living." He picked up a photo of a little girl with bright eyes and pigtails. Petra was Maya's age when she died. Same curiosity about everything. Same brave spirit. "Is that why you saved Maya?" Lisa asked softly. "Maybe. When I saw her struggling to breathe, I saw my Petra. I couldn't save my daughter, but maybe I could save yours." Maya walked over to Alexander and took his hand. "I'm sorry, your little girl died," she said, with the honest sympathy only children can offer. Alexander knelt down to her level. "Thank you, little one. But you know what? Having you and your mama here this week, it's the first time this house has felt alive again since they died." That evening, Lisa called another meeting with the village council. But this time, she came with a proposal. "I've been thinking about this law," she told the assembled elders, "and I think everyone has been looking at it wrong." Katerina raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "The law isn't really about ownership or marriage. It's about creating family connections. About making sure people who save lives stay connected to the lives they saved." "Yes," nodded Stefan. "This is the true meaning. So what if we honored that spirit but adapted it to modern life?" Lisa stood up, feeling more confident. "What if, instead of me staying here permanently, we created a formal relationship between this village and the American diplomatic community? A sister city relationship. With cultural exchanges." The elders looked interested, but confused. "Alexander saved Maya's life, so by your law, we're connected to his family forever. What if that connection became bigger? What if it connected our whole communities?" She outlined her idea. Regular cultural exchange visits, a scholarship fund for village children to study in America, and a program bringing American medical volunteers to remote mountain communities. Alexander could become the official cultural liaison, Lisa continued. He would travel between the village and various diplomatic missions, sharing traditional knowledge while learning about modern practices. And what about the sacred debt? Asked Katerina. The debt would be honored through service to both communities. Instead of me serving one household, my family would serve the connection between two cultures. Maya tugged on Lisa's shirt. Mum, does this mean we can visit Uncle Alexander every year? If the council agrees, yes. We'd spend summers here, and Alexander might visit us in America sometimes. The elders huddled together in intense discussion. Lisa could see some nodding while others looked skeptical. Finally, Katerina stood up. This is very different from traditional way, she said slowly. But perhaps tradition must grow with times. The spirit of the law is family connection. If this creates stronger family between our peoples, it honors the law while helping both communities, Lisa said. Maya grows up understanding both cultures. Alexander finds new purpose. The village benefits from international connections. And the life debt is paid through years of mutual service. Stefan smiled for the first time since the crisis began. You think like diplomat, but understand like mountain person. This could work. That night, as Lisa tucked Maya into bed in their small village room, her daughter asked, Mum, are you happy we're staying connected to this place? Lisa thought about Alexander's kind eyes, about the village women who had welcomed them, about the beauty of these mountains and the wisdom of these simple people. Yes, sweetheart. I think this connection might be the best thing that's ever happened to us. Outside their window, she could see Alexander sitting in his garden, looking up at the stars. For the first time in 3 years, he wasn't alone with his grief. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as they worked out the details of this unprecedented arrangement. But tonight, Lisa felt hope that they had found a solution that honored the past while embracing the future. Part 5. The Resolution 6. Months later, the village of Stara Vela looked completely different. Not because anything had physically changed, but because it buzzed with new energy and purpose. Today was special. It marked the official ceremony that would formalize the cultural partnership Lisa had proposed. Maya ran through the village square, her backpack bouncing as she hurried to help Melina set up the ceremonial table. Over the months, she had become fluent in the local language and moved through the village like she had lived there her whole life. Mama Lisa called out one of the village children in English, waving excitedly. All the local kids had started learning English as part of the new cultural exchange program. Lisa smiled. Adjusting the traditional village dress, the women had insisted she wear for the ceremony. It felt strange but wonderful to be dressed in the hand-woven fabric with intricate mountain patterns. 6 months ago, she never could have imagined herself here. Are you nervous? Alexander asked, appearing beside her in his finest traditional costume, a white shirt with elaborate embroidery and a dark vest passed down from his grandfather. A little, Lisa admitted. This is either going to be the most successful diplomatic innovation in history, or the most expensive mistake I've ever made. Alexander laughed. You worry too much. Look around. Does this look like a mistake to you? Lisa followed his gaze across the bustling square. Representatives from 3 different American embassies had come for the ceremony. The Kravanian Minister of Culture was here too, along with university researchers and international development workers. Most importantly, the village elders sat at their decorated table, beaming with pride as their ancient traditions gained worldwide recognition. The American university delegation arrives in 20 minutes, Victor announced, consulting his watch. He had become the official transportation coordinator for the cultural program and now owned 3 new vehicles to handle all the visitors. And the medical team from Boston Children's Hospital should be here this afternoon, added Dr. Peterson, a volunteer who had been working with Alexander to document traditional mountain remedies. They're very excited about the plant-based allergy treatments you've developed. Alexander nodded modestly. Over the past months, his traditional knowledge had gained serious scientific attention. Major medical journals were publishing papers about his herbal treatments, and he had been invited to speak at conferences across Europe. Maya bounded up to them, slightly out of breath. Mom, the TV people want to interview us before the ceremony starts, And Katerina says the feast is almost ready. The TV people were very different from the sensationalist reporters who had invaded 6 months earlier. These were documentary filmmakers creating an educational series about innovative cultural diplomacy. The story had transformed from a scandal about ancient marriage laws into an inspiring tale of cross-cultural cooperation. "Remember what we practiced," Lisa told Maya as they walked toward the cameras. "Simple answers, speak clearly, and if you don't understand a question, it's okay to ask them to repeat it." The interview went smoothly. Maya charmed everyone by switching effortlessly between English and the local language, explaining how she now had 2 homes and 2 families. Lisa spoke about how the experience had changed her approach to diplomacy, making her more patient and culturally aware. But the real star was Alexander. When asked about the transformation in his life, he paused thoughtfully before answering. 6 months ago, I was living in the past, keeping my house like a museum to my sadness," he said. "Now I wake up every day with purpose. I have work that matters, friends around the world, and," he looked at Maya and Lisa, "a family again." The ceremony itself was beautiful. It began with traditional mountain songs performed by village children, including Maya, who had learned to play the shepherd's flute. Then came the formal presentations. Katerina stood up slowly, her voice carrying the authority of her 90 years. "Today, we witness something new in our ancient law. The life debt has become life connection, not just between 2 people, but between 2 peoples." She presented Lisa with a hand-carved wooden certificate, written in both languages, officially naming her an honorary daughter of Stara Vela, and establishing the permanent cultural bond between the village and the American diplomatic community. "This debt will be passed down through generations," Katerina continued. "Maya's children and their children will always have family in these mountains, and our children will always have family in America." Lisa felt tears in her eyes as she accepted the honor. 6 months ago, I thought I was trapped by an ancient law I didn't understand. Today, I realized that law gave me the greatest gift of my life, a deeper understanding of what family really means." The American ambassador, who had initially been furious about this situation, now stood proudly beside Lisa. The program had become a model for cultural diplomacy that other embassies were eager to copy. Lisa Chen has reminded us that sometimes the best solutions come not from running away from cultural differences, but from embracing them, he said in his speech. "This partnership has enriched both our communities in ways we never expected." The feast that followed lasted until midnight. Tables groaned under traditional foods alongside American dishes the embassy staff had contributed. Children ran between the tables, switching between languages, while adults shared stories and planned future exchanges. Maya fell asleep in Alexander's lap as he sat with a group of village elders, translating folk stories for the visiting American professors. Lisa watched them and marveled at how natural it all looked. "No regrets?" asked Dr. Peterson, settling beside Lisa on a wooden bench. "None," Lisa said firmly. "My career has never been more fulfilling. Maya is growing up bilingual and bicultural, and ALEKSANDAR. She looked at the man who had become like a brother to her. He's found his way back to life." Later that night, after the guests had departed and the village had quieted down, Lisa and Alexander sat in his garden sharing tea and watching the stars. "Do you think your wife and daughter would be happy about how things turned out?" Lisa asked gently. Alexander smiled peacefully. "Anna always said I was too serious, that I needed to see the world beyond these mountains. And Petra, she would have loved having Maya as a sister. Maya adores you. She tells everyone at school that she has the best uncle in the world. And I tell everyone I have the bravest niece and most stubborn sister," he replied with a grin. As Lisa prepared to return to her regular diplomatic duties the next week, she felt profound gratitude for the chain of events that had brought them here. Maya's allergic reaction had been terrifying, but it led to connections none of them could have imagined. The ancient law of Zivotny, Doug hadn't trapped them, It had freed them to become a family that transcended borders, cultures, and traditions. And, in a world that often seemed divided by differences, they had created something beautiful by choosing understanding over fear. Same time next summer, Alexander asked as they prepared to say goodnight. "Wouldn't miss it," Lisa replied. "After all, we have a sacred debt to honor." They both laughed, knowing that what had started as an obligation had become the joy of their lives.